Hello, hope you all are doing well. Are you ready? Are you ready for a special video today where we're going to talk about 12 designer fragrances, and I think they are perfect for office wears. So we're going to talk about these today, but what makes this video special? There are plenty of office fragrances related videos online. What makes this different? Well, on this particular video, you're going to get, for the 12 designer fragrances, you're also going to get Indian alternative and a Middle Eastern alternative wherever possible for all of those 12 fragrances. So if you cannot get the OG, yes, then you can definitely consider getting an alternative as well, right? Now, a fragrance video like this takes a lot of effort to remember 35 fragrances and to keep all of them handy for us to shoot this particular video. So what I really request from you is hitting that like button, subscribe, and do drop a comment. That means a lot. Do drop a comment and share it with your fellow fragheads who like office related fragrances, right? And if you do get more than 2,000 views in just about a day's time, we can also do a flanker of another video or a spin-off of another video where we can think about doing only niche fragrances of office related fragrances, and we can do a video on that as well. But right, let's not talk about more on this particular thing, and let's get into the video. We are talking about 12 fragrances, 12 designer fragrances, and let's start right after this intro. Alright, welcome back, and the first fragrance that we're going to talk about today is one of the popular designer fragrances for everybody, and talking about the Pour Homme Versace's Dylan Blue. Now this is a citrus based fragrance. This has got citrus, this has got some spice elements, it's also got some incensey, aquatic, marine type of a fragrance. It's very popular with people because it kind of gets compliments, and yes, for office wear it is an absolute beautiful fragrance to consider. It does have an average performance of about 4 hours or so, I would say, and projection is pretty decent, right? Now, if you want to kind of get Versace Dylan Blue, you can kind of get that. We do have it in decants, or we did have. Now, if you want an alternate for it, or an Indian alternate to consider would be to look at Centedelic's Kisame. Okay, now this is a pretty decent alternate of it. You will pretty much get a similar lasting of it, which is about 4 or 5 hours. The scent profile is pretty much on a dot or almost very close to how it's done with the Versace Dylan Blue. A very good Middle Eastern alternative that I've been trying to scout and I've been able to get my hands on is from the house of Al Dirgam. This is Al Khanas. Okay, now this is Al Khanas actually. Okay, it's pretty nice in terms of how it smells, very close to how Versace Dylan Blue is. I will do a detailed review as well, but yes, this is a good Middle Eastern alternative to consider if you're looking for an alt of Versace Dylan Blue. And from an Indian house, you can think about Centedelic. Very popular choice among people, very good compliment getting fragrance, has a good amount of citrusy, spicy, incensey note, and works very well in office wear environment, right? So the first one to consider is Versace Dylan Blue, right? Next, let's go on to another fragrance which I kind of recently bumped into this, and I kind of absolutely liked it a lot. I'm talking about Dolce & Gabbana's K. Okay, now Dolce & Gabbana K is a fragrance that's basically got a lot of citrus floral notes and a little bit of other things that's going as well. Gives a very nice fruity punch to it as well. Now, K has got blood orange, juniper berries, some pimento, some cedar, and all of that makes it a very beautiful, citrusy, aromatic kind of a fragrance with a lot of good peppery, woody vibe to it, and it's very, very nice. I actually put on this a few minutes back and it smells really, really nice. And I found two fabulous alternates for it again. Now, one from the house of Centedelic. It's a cover series that they've had. You can definitely try it if you can get it. It's very, very close, and I think you can also consider getting from Yasmin. But there's another fragrance that I recently found, which is called Mani from the house of Ahmad Al-Maghrabi. Now, this is an on-spot clone of the K, and I'm going to do a detailed review about it maybe in about a week or so. But this has got an additional touch of oud, but on the other hand, the same fragrance related notes, which is basically blood orange, junipers, okay, some spice elements, and cedar and wood, makes this particular fragrance very good for office, and I think it's a very pleasant surprise. Performance is top notch on Mani, especially very, very nice on Mani. The K and Centedelic have got decent performance. ones. Now, office wear fragrances, you do need to understand that they will have decent performance of about 4 hours or so most of the times. Okay, they are not really long lasting fragrances. There are also fragrances that will have a lower scent projection profile as well, so about 2 feet. But yes, these are very good fragrances because they do not annoy people and you will actually kind of get compliments. So yes, this number 11 is Dolce & Gabbana King. Okay, now when we talk about fragrances like this, there is one fragrance where you move on from citrus elements to more woody fragrance, and one office wear beautiful fragrance that I would consider is from the house of Tom Ford called Oud Oud. Now, Oud Oud is basically a fragrance that's got a lot of woody elements. It's got a little bit of a sweetness. It's got a little bit of a pepper as well, but it's mostly a little sweet. It's got a good amount of oud and a nice dry down as such. Makes it a very beautiful, captivating, powdery, woody kind of a fragrance. And this is one of my favorite fragrances to wear always. And for office wear, this is a very nice fragrance. It's a very safe type of a fragrance. Now, when you think about alternates for this particular fragrance, I can think about two very good ones. One coming from the house of Afia called as Oud Oud. You can kind of get this very popular from their house. Very good fragrance. In fact, if you had watched previous videos of mine where I did a comparison test for it, this was the one that I kind of picked. You can consider this as one of the very close ones in terms of how the OG is. Second alternate, a pretty decent one that to consider is Maison Alhambra's Woody Wood. Okay, now this is a very good alternate to consider when you think about an alt of Oud Oud, and I really like the way this particular fragrance is made. Smells very close, very nice, very elegant, and something very, very classy as well, right? So this is number 10 to consider, Tom Ford's Oud Oud, right? Now, very nice fragrances on the whole, and let's get into more fragrances, and I'm going to talk about one of my favorite fragrances recently. This is Kenzo's. Okay, now this is the EDT Intense. However, this is a very nice fragrance to consider if you like a marine fragrance which has got that sea salty element, but this has got a compound that's made from Givaudan, which has basically got aquatic, fruity kind of a vibe to it. But along with that, there's also, I think, a note of fig on this one, which makes this particular fragrance getting a little bit of that fruity element along with a woody vibe to it. Okay, now this is really, really nice when you consider fragrances for office, because this is very clean, very neat, and that marine aquatic note makes for a very nice touch to this particular fragrances. And generally in office, these kind of fragrances work well. Now, when you think about a fragrance like this, I don't have an exact alt of this, but I could suggest two beautiful fragrances. One from the house of Muzna called as Kanza. This was a limited edition release that they had, but you can definitely try and check if they still have it. This is a very good alternative of the Kenzo EDT Intense. Okay, now pretty nice, very nice, similar scent profile here, minus the fruit element that you see in the Kenzo. Okay, now one is this. You can definitely consider this. Okay, let me just keep that back. Another fragrance that I recently found is this. This is Wajood from the house of Latafa. Now, this might not be an exact alternate or an exact clone of Kenzo, but it has got a similar scent profile leaning in its way. This is, I would feel, a blend between Tom Ford's Oud Mineral and Kenzo EDT. So this has got that similar marine opening, a little bit of that woody vibe, a little bit of pink pepper, pretty similar in terms of how scent profile is. So if you kind of like Kenzo's EDT Intense, then you can definitely consider Latafa's Wajood. A detailed review will come of this as well, or you can consider getting Muzna. Okay, let's move on to more fragrances. When we talk about office related fragrances, citrus done, marine done, we need to have a nice, spicy fragrance that's got a good amount of pepperiness, a zestiness, and of course a little bit of that vetiver type of a vibe. Now, when we talk about these elements, a fragrance that comes into my mind and I'm kind of blown away with this is the Terde Ames. Okay, now this is just fabulous. Oh my god, what can I tell you? This smells so nice in the air. It's got that little bit of that sweetness, it's got pepperiness, it's got that zest, it's got vetiver, cedar and all of that, but still it's an aromatic, citrusy, woody type of a fragrance. But what makes this even better is the performance. Now, the OG is this one. you put on like 8-10 sprays, it projects like crazy. It's a loud fragrance even for office wear, so go a little softer on spray, but a scent profile that will definitely get you compliment, the fragrance that will make you look very, very nice in front of people, and it's not a fragrance that's going to annoy people. So you could go a little softer on the sprays, but it lasts a whole day. So this is one of those fragrances for me lasts a whole day, so you can easily consider this. So Terre de Hermes is very, very nice. We do have decants of all of the fragrances that we're talking about, so in case you want to consider getting decants, yes, you could. Two very popular fragrances that are very well known to people, one is of course the Middle Eastern alternate, which is Fatan. Okay, this is from the house of Rasasi. This is a good alternate of Terre de Hermes. The only difference that I think I would say is that the original is a lot more louder, and it's a lot more spicier, and I feel the spicy element is a little softer here, but aside to it, it's a good alternate when you think about a price band. This is about 1200, 1300 rupees is something that you should comfortably get. Now, a good alternate of it from an Indian house is again from the house of Muzna. It's called La Vetiver Orange. Okay, it's a similar type of a scent profile. And one of the things with Muzna fragrances is that over a period of time, it kind of becomes a little more potent, right? So you kind of get good performance as well. I do have Wildstone's Terra as well, but I wouldn't recommend that as a good alternate to as such. But yes, you may want to consider that as an option as well. But from an Indian house, I would say you can think about Muzna, right? So yes, Terre de Hermes is a fab fragrance when you think about spicy office fragrance, when you want to have that boss kind of a feeling. Yes, it makes for this, right? When we talk about office fragrances, there are two quintessential fragrances that we cannot at all miss, and these are just too good for office wears. I'm talking about the Nautica Voyage. Okay, Nautica Voyage is one of those fragrances that really is a must-have for office fragrances, because this has got that soft scent, it's got that aquatic vibe, it's got that cucumber feeling to it. It's a fragrance that's just blissful to wear. You can wear it any time of the year. It's a soft projection fragrance. Is the only flaw with this is it's light in terms of its performance, so you don't really get a lot of it. So but you can get a 50 ml of it easily, or 100 ml for about 1100 or 2500 rupees. Recently in the Myntra sale, we got the 100 ml for about 1100 or so, which is a great deal, right? So you can consider this as a very good fragrance for office wear. This is number 7. Now, I would say that there are no alternates of this. I'm sure you can find, but I wouldn't encourage you to go that way, because get the OG, that's really, really good. But there is another fragrance in the similar DNA, but a little more potent, is this. This is got mint. This is David of Cool Water, which has got mint. It's got that similar marine vibe. It's got a little bit of spicy element. It's got that woody nature, sandalwood in the dry down, geranium, all of that makes for a fabulous office fragrance. And people kind of like fragrances like this on you in an office environment, because they smell neat, they smell clean, they smell very sophisticated, and these are cult classics, so people kind of like this. Now, when you think about Indian alternates, for it, okay, the one that I would recommend is from the house of Upsilon, called Wild Blue, which is very good, considering that you can get this at a very good price, and performance is much better than David of Cool Water. You probably get about 4 to 5 hours here. You will get about 6 to 7 easily on apparels, even 8 hours. And Middle Eastern alternate to consider is from the house of Pandora. Like I said, you can consider this because this has got a similar scent profile called Blue Wave. This has got a similar scent profile. Performance is lower, but a good alternate when you think about David of Cool Water. One popular fragrance with people when it comes to office, when it comes to dates and all of that, people can just do a blind buy on this. I have a decant of this. I'm talking about YSL Y EDT. Now, YSL Y EDT is a fragrance that's basically got citrusy vibes. It's got some fruity tones. It's got some musk, incense, vetiver, and of course a watery, aquatic vibe, which makes this particular fragrance a favorite among people, because this is again one of those clean, neat, sophisticated sophisticated type of fragrances that garners compliments and garners attention. So people kind of like this fragrance a lot. People even like the EDP version as well. But there is something about the way the EDT works, the way those citrusy and those floral, with the fruity elements coming together, along with a little bit of vetiver, incense, and musk works very well. Now, when you think about a fragrance like this, I can tell you from an Indian alternate point of view, you can think getting it from the house of Muzna again. Muzna has got a YSL Y alt, which is very, very nice. It's nicely done. Performance is slightly better compared to the OG. But if you cannot, the popular ones that we can always think about getting from Middle Eastern vibes is the Latafas Fakr Black, which is fabulous. And now we also have a new entrant, which is Maison Alhambra's Yeah. Okay. Now, in fact, this bottle looks very much as close to as how the EDT bottle looks, minus this, but both of them are really, really good in terms of their scent profile, and the lasting is also pretty good, because though they are soft in its scent profile, lasting is pretty good. You get 6-7 hours on apparel easily, though they are soft, right? But I would do a comparison to tell you which is which at a later point of time, or how good or which is better. But yes, both of them are really good buys that you can consider when you think about a YSL Y alternate to for office use. Now, like I said, some of these fragrances work very well when you wear just a simple blue shirt or a blue or a white shirt or as such, because they kind of complement that part of it. So they really are good fragrances to consider. Next fragrance to consider during office is Acqua di Gio, and Acqua di Gio's Perfumo is a very popular choice with people. Again, a similar scent profile of citrus elements, incense, woody nature, spicy elements, but overall you get a very nice scent profile. And Acqua di Gio Perfumo is very popular with people for its very classy appeal, scent profile that gets a lot of attention and compliments, right? So office wear, yes, it definitely works very, very well. Now, I have the old batch decant as well, and also the new one. Two alternates that I would recommend here is one from the house of Aroma Artisans. Okay, this is something that you can definitely consider, called Dive Nui, which is a similar scent profile of Acqua di Gio Perfumo. Very nicely done, and it's got that added note of that mint, which makes it even better. Okay, another alternate that I have considered or always recommended is the Latafa Sukrit. Okay, you can consider this. Now there are complaints with this saying that it doesn't perform as well as such, but I have not got that issue. I kind of like the fragrance for its scent profile. I like it very much because of that, and it actually is one of those very pleasing, soothing kind of fragrances. Sometimes performance is something that we need to consider at the back, because we want to look at the scent profile, and if the scent profile of the fragrance is good, then that makes a lot of difference for us, right? Now, this is a nice fragrance for office wear, like I said, and it's pretty good when you consider as close to the OG as possible when you think about Acqua di Gio Perfumo. Okay, so this is another good consideration to look at office fragrances. Right, let's go to one of my favorite fragrances when you think about office. For me, it's a blue fragrance that's in my opinion, I think about this as the greatest of all time. This is a citrusy, woody fragrance with then again an incensey touch to it, but it's got a lot of sandalwood to it, and it makes this very creamy, very beautiful. It's got a very dark, complex nature, and a fragrance that started that entire blue theme, so to say. And this is one of those lovely fragrances for office, because this just eludes, complexity, luxury, and of course, compliments. Now, for this particular fragrance, I don't really have to break a lot of head to suggest you alternates for it, because yes, you can consider getting from the house of Scentadelic. There is Toby Rama, I think this is called the Bleu de Chanel EDT version that you can kind of consider. This is the Parfum edition. Okay, but nonetheless, the scent profile is almost similar in terms of the DNA. The sandalwood note is a lot more prominent here in the Parfum edition. That's predominantly a difference. Alternatively, I would say consider Ahmad Al Maghrabi's Blue by Ahmad, which is absolutely bang for buck kind of a fragrance when you think about Bleu de Chanel as a alternative. Very nice, citrusy, sweet kind of slight sweet fragrance, and the way incense works in this, the way woody notes work on this particular fragrance, absolute banger. And this is one of those fragrances that you should think for interviews or for business meetings, because this is something very classy, right? So yes, Blue de Chanel or Blue by Ahmed or Scentadelics, Tobirama, all of these are good alternates to think about when you think about Blue de Chanel. Now, when you think about Blue de Chanel, there is a fragrance that we should definitely talk about, because this is another fragrance that a lot of people like. I'm talking about Sauvage. Okay, now I'm talking about the Sauvage EDT. So this is the 20 ml decant that we had, and in fact, if you're watching this for the first time, or if you're new to this channel, especially if you're from India, be part of our WhatsApp community, because whenever we bring new fragrances, sometimes we bring fragrances in decants and we give them at cost price as a thing, as a give back to the community. And this was given a 10 ml of this we offered at 600 rupees as such. Now this is one of those fabulous fragrances to think about, because this has got that green aromatic vibe, a citrusy green vibe to it, a fresh take on it. It doesn't have so much of the citrus, but it's more of the green herbaceous vibe, and it's a very popular fragrance among people because it smells very, very good. There's always a split between Blue de Chanel and Sauvage. So Sauvage is very, very nice. Now, when you think about Sauvage as a fragrance and you want to consider wearing it for office, a couple of alternates are: one is from the house of Maven Perfumery. You can think about Sauvage, very, very nicely done, good performance. You will get easily about 5-6 hours of performance. Or you can think about even Muzna as well. They also have a pretty good one. If you want a little more premier version of this, then you can consider Afna's Modest Tune, which is also a very good alternate of the Sauvage. You can also consider Sheikh Zayed Blue. That is also something that I will do a comparison to tell you which is how. But the primary element that I would say when you think about Sauvage, especially from an Afnan point of view, is that it's a little more creamy, so a little more woody, whereas Sauvage, Sheikh Zayed is a lot more punchier. But yes, this is a quintessential office fragrance, and I think it works very, very well. The only thing is, because this particular fragrance has been cloned so many times by so many different brands, it could be taken as just a good deodorant as well, right? But aside to that, it's a very good office fragrance to consider. So this is Sauvage, and this is, I think, number 3, right? Let's get to, so this is not technically a top 10 kind of a list. These are just basically fragrances that I'm suggesting to you in terms of which are good office fragrances. Number 2 on this particular list is rather the fragrance which is very popular from people, which is Dolce & Gabbana's Light Blue Forever. Now, Light Blue Forever is a citrusy fragrance with a little bit of earthy, sweet nuances to it, and I have 2 alternates of this particular fragrance, because this particular fragrance has got citrusy notes along with violet leaf to give you that little bit of a spice element to it, and of course woody nature to it. It's a fab fragrance, and there are 2 great alternates. I am not able to find my decant of DNG, but I can suggest you 2 alternates very comfortably without thinking about much, because I know how they look. One is Fragrance World's Launo Forever Blue. This is really, really nice, and I think this is one of those perfect fragrances, especially for doctors, for people who are in close encounters with or like, who want to have a nice spa space, and you have people coming in out all the time, and you want to grab attention at the same time, be very pleasing. This is one of those nice fragrances because of that aquatic, ozonic nature to it. It's with a little bit of citrus elements like grapefruit coming into this. Very nice, very beautifully done fragrance. So you can consider Launo from Fragrance World as one of the alternates to it. Another alternate from the house of Indian perfumery, which is Mehdi Hasan's, is Forever. Now, I don't really remember how many bottles of these that I have recommended to people and I have given, because this is very well done in terms of how Dolce & Gabbana's Light Blue Forever is. Very similar type of a scent profile. Now, in both the cases, the performance is average, I would say, 4-5 hours, but then I think the original also is around the same kind of a ballpark figure. So yes, you can definitely consider these 2 as good options for Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Forever, right? Now that leaves us with the number 1 fragrance, and for me this is a fragrance that I've always thought about, something that has got a lot of complexity, and I'm talking about the popular Tuxedo from the house of Yves Saint Laurent. Now Yves Saint Laurent's Tuxedo is one of those fragrances that's got a lot of spicy elements, but it's also got vanilla, it's also got a bit of rose, and it's got woody elements, and along with some patchouli as well. So very earthy, very floral in the background, but primarily a very spicy fragrance, and I think it's it is for me one of the best fragrances that you can think about for wearing for offices, because I have a very small decant of it left because it is so classy in its way, in its scent profile, and I think it's superb. Now there are two alternates to it, and I have always said that this is one of the best to consider is Fragrance World Suits. Okay, now this I think has captured the same essence of tuxedo in a very nice way, to a great extent that the rose note is not something that is a lot very well captured by a lot of alternates that come across this particular fragrance. But the way this particular fragrance opens up with that spice elements, with that slight element of vanilla in the background, and then of course rose and all of that is superb. And an Indian alternate to consider is from the house of Centinelli, called as Black Flag. Okay, now this is also a pretty decent alternate to it, because like I said, one of the challenges that that was when I did the comparison video for YSL Tuxedo was that getting that rose note, and to some extent, Black Flag does it, but the best alternative, I would say, is Suits from the house of Fragrance World, which is really, really good, right? So that's how I would say this becomes the one of those fragrances that's quintessentially right at the top for me when you think about office fragrances, right? So this is what I thought about office fragrances and the alternates from an Indian and a Middle Eastern point of view. If you liked the video and the fragrances suggested here, do hit the like button, subscribe, and definitely put in a comment, because if we get the right amount of responses, we can also look at doing a niche alternative to this, where we'll talk about fragrances, office fragrances from niche brands and alternatives from Indian and Middle Eastern houses, right? So I'll see you on another video. Until another time, take care. Bye now.